So we're going to bring in Seth right now. Sethos!
Good morning. Seth from Synergy TV and all of our viewers, both locally and internationally.
Well, Seth, right. We're going to get straight down into business here. Cerebral palsy is the topic. What is it? How does it happen? What can be done?
All right, so let's get into it. So cerebral palsy. What I like to, if I have to entitle this segment, it would be understanding the injury, not the label. All right?
Okay.
So cerebral palsy is one of the most misunderstood neurological conditions. So before we get into talking about causes, outcomes, and responsibility, it would help us to better understand where the term itself comes from. So the word cerebral, it comes from the Latin word cerebrum, meaning the brain. And palsy comes from the Greek word paraleo, which means to loosen, to weaken, or to impair movement. Okay. So cerebral palsy is not a disease in itself. It is actually a descriptive term that refers to movement difficulties resulting from an early injury to developing brain. Right? So that's what it is, an early injury to the developing brain. Okay. And that distinction matters because labels describes outcomes. They do not explain causes. All right? So cerebral palsy occurs when areas of the brain responsible for movement, muscle tone, posture, and coordination are injured very early in life. Depending on which areas of the brains are affected, a child may experience muscle stiffness, involuntary movements, difficulty with balance, speech, or swallowing. Okay. But what's important to understand is that, cerebral palsy is not contagious, right? Right. It's not usually genetic, and it's not a degenerative brain condition.
Okay.
Right? The brain itself does not worsen over time. What changes over time is how the body responds to and adapts to that injury, especially as the child grows. And I'll explain that a little bit more as we go along. Another point that is often overlooked is that neurodevelopment does not begin at birth. It begins at conception. And I have mentioned that many times on dealing with different health topics. The health of both parents matters. The father's sperm contribute not just DNA, but biological signals that influence early development, including how resilient the developing brain is. Right? So resilience plays an important part. This is not about blame, of course. It's about understanding the biology is shared and that resilience is built long before labor ever begins. All right? So let's look at it a little bit more. So in most cases, cerebral palsy develops when when something interferes with oxygen delivery, blood flow, or cellular energy in the developing brain. All right? And this interference can occur during pregnancy. It could occur during labor and delivery or shortly after birth. Right? Common contributing factors include oxygen deprivation, premature birth, inflammation, infection, and birth trauma. Right? Now, birth trauma could include things like accident or injury. Sometimes it might have a vehicular accident and the mother might go into labor, things like that.
Right.
Sometimes you might hear situations where the umbilical cord wrap around the child's neck during delivery. All of those things can play with regards to developing this damage or this injury, right? And the developing brain has extremely high energy demands due to such. And during these critical windows, it has a very little or slim margin for error, all right? Very slim margin for error. And this is where many conversations just fall short. The developing brain does not exist in isolation. It reflects the metabolic and nutritional environment it is developing in. So factors such as chronic inflammation, blood sugar instability, micronutrient deficiencies and prolonged physiological stress do not automatically lead to cerebral palsy, but they reduces biological resilience. And resilience matters because not every child exposed to stress during birth develops the same outcome.
Okay.
So, and this is where many parents understandably become confused. Some parents, you might hear some parents say, but my friend went through something very similar during pregnancy or delivery and her child is perfectly fine. Why did my child develop cerebral palsy? And the reason for that outcome is not determined by a single event, and that's what people need to understand. A single event is not what determines the outcome.
Okay.
They are determined by the biological resilience of the developing brain going into the event.
Right.
So two children can experience similar stress during birth, but if one child's nervous system was already under metabolic strain, inflammation, nutritional deficiencies, that brain has far less capacity to tolerate stress. So what looks like the same situation on the outside, on the surface level, is often very different on the inside. And parents sometimes would, again understandably, look for someone to blame. So
right.
They might feel some sort of anger towards, a doctor or a nurse or the healthcare system because they believe that if the event had gone differently, the outcome would have changed.
Would have changed, yeah.
Yeah. But what is often missing from the conversation is biology, right? A medical event does not happen in a vacuum. They interact with the biological state of the patient at that moment, right? And this is something I'm pretty sure you have encountered, not just with this particular illness, but you would have encountered many people saying, and I've encountered a lot of people coming to my clinic and saying, it's only after I went by the doctor this started to happen to me and that started to happen to me, because they don't understand the entire biological state prior to going by the doctor or the clinic or whatnot. So when a developing brain is already operating with reduced biological capacity, and that's due to long-standing nutritional deficiencies, chronic inflammation, or poor metabolic health, even a common stress could have a greater impact, right? Now, this doesn't mean parents intended to harm, but it does mean that parental health, awareness, biological preparedness matter, whether people are aware of it or not.
Right.
And this is why education before pregnancy is so important. Many of these outcomes are not about the single moment in the delivery room. You see, they're about the biological resistance built or not built long before conception. And that's why I always tell people, a lot of people start focusing on their health only after pregnancy, right? After conception. This is something people have to focus on long before, long before, right? But, I mean, that's what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to educate people so people can be preventative instead of, trying to look on cure, right? Now, you might encounter or something that is very confusing to a lot of families that might be dealing with somebody with cerebral palsy, is when they are told that it is a non-progressive illness. But from their observations, they might be seeing the symptoms worsening over time. Now, to explain that better here, think about a balloon. You ever had a deflated balloon, and a part of the balloon was exposed to heat? Now, when I was young, you take a starlight and whatnot and put it near the balloon, right? But if you get it close to the heat, but it wasn't exposed to the heat long enough to cause a hole in the balloon, but it was long enough to damage the spot,
right,
but not puncture it. When you start to inflate that balloon, that area that was damaged loses or have lost elasticity, right, at that spot. So as you're blowing into the balloon, the rest of the balloon expands normally, but that area isn't expanding as it should or may not expand at all, right?
Okay.
And so it's not that that area is becoming more damaged now. It's that the rest of the body has an increased demand. So therefore, the damaged area is showing up its limitations more. So it's not getting worse because that injury is static.
Right.
But the body is dynamic. So your body is growing, so you're going to have things like your nutrient demands are more, all right? As a child is growing, they need more nutrients, so you're going to have more demands on their muscles and their joints and all of these things. But because of that injury, that part of the brain is not growing as it should because it is static.
Okay.
Right? It is static. So, so what looks like worsening is often growth revealed in fixed limitations, right, and not new damage occurring. All right. So when people ask about cerebral palsy, what they are really asking is whether the condition can change, because I guess that's what we want to hear, right?
Right.
Whether function can improve and whether the body can adapt, right? Cerebral palsy, remember, it reflects damage to the brain in the early stage.
Right.
But the brain and the nervous system, it's not static. They are capable of learning and reorganizing and finding alternative pathways. All right? That's how the human body is designed. Right? So there are biological processes that support this. You have things like brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which plays a role in learning and neuroplasticity, as well as you have stem cell activity and repair signaling that occurs throughout the body. Right? So it doesn't mean the original injury would simply disappear, but what it does mean, and also it does not mean that there is guaranteed improvement, but it does mean that function is conditional, right? So when the body and the internal environment, the inputs going into the body are supported, the nervous system has a greater ability to adapt, compensate, and develop workarounds that can improve movement coordination and overall quality of life in individuals with cerebral palsy, all right? But that requires understanding of the biology, all right? And that requires making changes. But those changes have to be guided through education, right? It must be guided through education. We need to step away from this blind trust or blind allegiance and educate ourselves, and which is one of the main focus of me writing my book, You Are Not Sick, You Are Malnourished, right? Because it helps people to understand the design of the human body, nutrition, metabolic health, biological resilience, and the influence it has on long-term outcomes, not just symptoms.
Symptoms,
right?
Yeah.
And that's why I do my consultations as well, which is more personalized guidance, all right? Because education plays a key part, all right? We don't want to continue to go about just blaming others for because of ignorance, not the same goes for my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. If we educate ourselves, in my book I go into what a child's nutrition is supposed to be, what it's supposed to be about, what they're supposed to eat and why, what they need to stay away from. Right? The other day I saw someone working at a health center and they post their Christmas event. And I'm looking at the food that they are feeding the children. They have things like cotton candy, which is just sugar.
Sugar, yeah.
At a clinic, right? A health center, a government health center, and these are foods they are given to children, which just tells me they have no knowledge on the impact of these things on the individual's health, right? And we need to become more educated because things continue to happen because we lack information. On it. If we had information, there are things that parents would turn down, and when you turn things down and larger corporations and businesses realize, okay, I'm not making any profit off of this, they are going to change what they are trying to advertise and sell to you because you are now educated. They go with what's trending, not what is healthy, not what is physically and metabolically beneficial, not what is biologically in tune and aligned. They simply go with what is profitable.
Right.
Right? So they would look at the larger climate, the environment, right? And if this is what people saying that they want, that is what they give. But we are out here with the herd mentality, as I mentioned last week. We just follow who is speaking the loudest, who is most charismatic, even if the information being spoken is totally or partially or just inaccurate.
Right.
Right? So accuracy should never be relied upon or blindly trust something based on how loud the person is speaking. Because I've had many people say, but I see a popular video on TikTok and YouTube and the person say this and that. But what they were saying is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It's wrong. It's biologically, scientifically wrong. Right?
Okay.
But it is trending and popular. So this condition is one that actually is preventable. And for those who already have kids with the condition, improvement is possible.
Right.
Very much possible. But a lot of people, their improvement is random. And why it is random is because they still don't have that knowledge on what to feed the child that is aligned with that child's biology.
Okay.
Right? And parents need to educate. In the past, when I'm talking about past, I'm not talking about yesterday and stuff. I'm talking about way back. Our ancestors, it didn't have industries. It didn't have artificial food. It didn't have none of those. It didn't even have farming, right? So we never had to educate ourselves on such. But today, it is of necessity that you educate yourself on nutrition because there is a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of misinformation out there. And for those who might in the comment section might want to say, well, Seth, you could be one that's spreading misinformation. We have been asking for years, if people have an issue with what I'm saying, they could always come and challenge me. It's not a problem, and we could have a discussion live on the air. But, for how much is almost, next year I think we'd make it 5 years.
5 years, yeah. Right? It's about 5 years,
5 years we're here. And we still haven't had anybody to answer that challenge, that call. But we have had people behind the scenes trying to make moves, right?
We have had that.
Right?
Well, okay. Well, Seth, we're out of time. But I send you Philip's number. I send Philip your number.
Yes.
You guys will hook up, and we will see where that goes. But people, I want to remind you that Seth's book is out. If you're looking for a nice gift for the Christmas to give to someone, this is a terrific gift because there's a lot of information in the book that is going to be valuable for you in terms of your health. So to get the book, all you need to do is call or WhatsApp 279-3935. That is 279-3935 or 761-1952. 761-1952. The numbers are on the screen.
And just to add, it's also available at RIK bookstores.
And it's also available at RIK. All right. And it's also available at RIK bookstores. All right. So we want to thank Seth this morning. And I look forward to you and Philip gearing up and to see where it goes and see if we get improvement in with any of the children involved with the society. So thanks a lot, man. And Merry Christmas to you.
Oh, same to you, and to all of our viewers, Synergy TV, all the employees, director, everyone. All right?
Nice, man. Director said thanks to the book.
Oh, no problem, no problem.
Yeah.
Hope he enjoys the read.
All right, cool, man. Nice one. So, Seth, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, no problem. So that is Seth Violabod. He's got one more episode before the end of the year, and then he'll be back in March. So one more in this season. All right.